Do it, motherfucker. Do it.
Oh, what's up? I'm Clary.
Today, we're going to be going over socialism. Finally, socialism. Let's fucking do it. I am so ready for the conversations this video will bring. I'm fucking ready, dude. All right, this is Second Thoughts, why you should be a socialist in 2024. I am looking to be converted. I am looking to see the light, okay? Capitalism is amazing at generating large amounts of wealth. It is fucking fantastic at that. And all we have to do, theoretically, is just redistribute. Because, yeah, wealth is going to pool up in certain areas. You know, if we can figure out redistribution, I think it could work. Also, market failures, stuff like that. Essentially, wherever capitalism doesn't work, government steps in. Theoretically, it should work. There's a problem with implementation, yes, but we have come a long ways. Now, let's see if Second Thought can convince me to completely throw out capitalism because of all of its problems and try out a system that has proven to fail time and again. And yes, socialism and communism have been tried, okay? Just because you don't like how they turned out doesn't mean they weren't those systems. All right, so fuck me, let's do it.
So let's get straight to the heart of the matter. Many of the problems in your life are either caused or worsened by capitalism.
We get a lot of good and bad things from capitalism. Yes, you could say, I mean, we live under capitalism, so a lot of the problems we experience are because of capitalism. That's true. But a lot of the benefits we have in life are because of capitalism, okay? Like, the capitalism has raised the standard of living for essentially everybody, like the poorest to the wealthiest. Everybody's gotten a fucking boost. It's been good shit, all right? There are problems. Once again, there very much are. But it's worked out for a lot of people, just saying.
The good news is, we have the means to solve these problems. When we socialists say a better world is possible, it's because it's true. Capitalism has only really been around for a few hundred years.
Very true.
It's a little bit silly to assume that we just magically found the perfect system and this is how humans are supposed to live.
Well, I hope no one's assuming that. I'm pretty sure no one's assuming that. Hold on, what did I have to say about this? Cleary, you bring up so many good points so often. Oh my goodness. Isn't it equally as silly to say that a system that is proven to fail time and again will be like the next step as well? Well, it's also silly to like try to force it. Because like typically when it comes to like, you know, going from feudalism to capitalism, these things happen pretty naturally and over a decent chunk of time. But you're trying to force your system. If your system was so good, why the fuck are you trying to shove it down everyone's throat? Why isn't everybody just, you know, taking it up?
It's not utopian to think that maybe something better can come after. And it's not being bitter or envious to criticize the status quo.
I would say there's definitely some idealism involved with socialism and communism. All right, so like when I said that socialism and communism have been tried, what I mean is they have this vision, right, that all socialists and communists start with, that grand Marxist fucking vision, and it does. It seems super duper cool. If the system could work, I would jump on board. All right, I would. Dude, I would be a communist if it could actually work out in the real world. Thing is, realistically, implementing it does not seem to work. Like, ever. Maybe it's not as simple as you're trying to make it out to be. And maybe all these problems wouldn't be solved with a fucking revolution.
Every system eventually comes to an end. Just as humanity progressed from feudalism to capitalism, so too will capitalism give way to socialism.
That is quite the fucking prediction. That's all I'm gonna say, dude. I'm holding them to it, by the way. I'm fucking holding them to this prediction.
Mostly settled, we have better data on just how extreme it really was. According to a report by Oxfam, the richest 1% of people accumulated nearly 2/3 of all new wealth generated in the last 2 years. I'll say that again. Of the $42 trillion of wealth created since 2020, the richest 1% of people, 1%, siphoned off 26 trillion of it.
So wealth disparity is a problem. Very much so. I acknowledge that. I still feel like, no, I know there are solutions within the setup we have. We don't need to. It really is that mindset of when we have problems, we need to just like throw out the system as a whole and not try to like find solutions and solve the problems. And we have taken steps to address these problems, at least when it comes to individual states, like higher taxes for the wealthy and stuff like that. I think we just need to keep pushing for change. Not revolution, but change.
Profit motive says 1 million people need to die.
Whoa,
Hard to even conceptualize that kind of inequality. But this is what capitalism produces. It's not that capitalism is evil, it's that it is beholden to its own inherent logic, the logic of the profit motive. If the profit motive says 1 million people need to die to save the economy, then the only possible outcome under a capitalist system is that 1 million people will die.
Is he actually blaming the COVID deaths on capitalism? Is he seriously going there? First off, we had to keep certain industries running during COVID. I mean, otherwise, collapse of society. You know, if people can't go to the grocery store and get food, it's kind of an issue, right? Secondly, I would say there are bigger problems than just like capitalism. I would say the fact that the federal government didn't like mandate some form of like lockdown, or like at least like put out some guidelines, like some standards for like lockdowns. And the fact that like half the country like it didn't even believe that like masks were important or that we should take any like precautions whatsoever. I would say those probably led more to like you not being able to flatten the curve, and just overall more people getting sick than necessary. There were definitely more problems than just profit motive. We need to stay like going to make money. Yeah, he's definitely it's reductionist. I would definitely call this reductionist. Oh, and also, how would a socialist country have addressed these issues? How would a socialist country have addressed like needing certain industries to stay open and keep like serving people? How would they have addressed misinformation when it comes to COVID? How would they have addressed anti-maskers and people just not taking it seriously? How does socialism like address any of that?
Amend that statement. Capitalism does work. It does the thing it's supposed to do, which is accumulate capital.
Yep.
But because of how capitalism works, we're left with a society in which the extreme wealth of the few is a direct result of the suffering of the many.
Oh god, the simplest capitalist take, dude. Yeah, capitalism's supposed to generate a shit ton of wealth for us, and then we redistribute. We obviously it's not going to go everywhere it needs to be going. So yeah, we need to focus on trying to like redistribute and like make the wealthy pay their fair share. I think that's very important. I think it's very much doable within capitalism.
And that tiny handful of multi-billionaires will only get smaller over time. An economic system constructed to produce winners and losers will always end in monopoly.
No. Naturally, yes. If we just let capitalism do its fucking thing, it would end in monopoly. That's very true. We experienced that. Like in what was it, the 1920s or whatever? Fucking Rockefeller. The steel guy. Oh my god, what is his name? I know. Steel Man. I'm just going to call him Steel Man. Yeah, Man of Steel. The Iron Man. There we go. Yeah, Mr. Iron Man with the monopolies. Pretty sure we addressed that. I understand there's a problem today when it comes to monopolies with online stuff, and I really do hope the government gets around to fixing that. But we have definitely more or less addressed the issue of monopolies. For sure. Oh, and all oligopolies are a fucking problem too. Just leave it. It's fine.
System that creates godlike wealth for a handful while actively preventing the vast majority from living a decent life.
Wait, what does he consider to be a decent life? Like the standard of living for everyone. Pretty much everyone, except I guess homeless people, but they're only like, I think they're only like, 500,000 homeless people in America or something? It's still a huge number, but it's just like, relatively speaking, it's nothing, dude. It's like in the single digits. The standard of living for basically everyone has increased. Like, I'm pretty sure we are much more well off. The average person today is much more well off than the average person like 50, 100 years ago. Maybe not 50. No, probably 50. Yeah, definitely 50.
Today, 50% of all new wealth created goes directly to the top 1% of the population. CEOs of large corporations make over 350 times what their workers do, while employee wages are
just real quick, if they're like the business owners, the CEOs, whatever the people that have to take the big risks and run the company, they do deserve to be paid more. But also, yeah, if you started a business, of course you should be paid more than someone just like helping out, someone that's just like a tiny part of it. Like fucking duh, you invested so much time and energy into it, like it'd be ridiculous. Never mind.
Lower than they were 50 years ago when you account for inflation. But yeah. I could almost forgive that if half of all Americans didn't live paycheck to paycheck. Or if a $50 trillion transfer of wealth hadn't gone from the bottom 90% of society to the top 1% since 1975. But they do, and it has.
So I would say there is a huge power imbalance between corporations and workers at the moment. There's always sort of a teeter-totter going on with those guys, right? Right now, yes, businesses definitely have... Well, oh god, that's not even entirely true right now because, the labor market's like super saturated, right? Like businesses are actually having trouble finding... So like workers do have a little bit more power right now. Thing is though, when it comes to, minimum wage, I agree, there should be an increase. And some states are actually doing it. It would be cool if it like happened on a federal level, but oh my god, hold on, you have notes, use them. Overall, yeah, I would say it's just Once again, another problem we can address within capitalism. We just need to get more like worker protections going on. I make sure that workers have more power overall. They have some leverage when it comes to dealing with like corporations and stuff.
The fact that in some way they've allowed for a small minority of the population, incredibly powerful and wealthy by virtue of ownership of the means of production, to squeeze more out of their workers for themselves. In the last century, we've seen the gradual destruction of unions, a federal tolerance of permanent high unemployment, and a series of changes to the tax system that allow more and more wealth to accumulate at the top. Wealth is more concentrated, we're more overworked, and rampant inequality persists because this economic system has no mechanism to fix these problems.
Really? We have no mechanism to address these issues? Like, what do you think the government even does? Yeah, I agree. It's bad that like worker unions are getting fucked. Workers just in general are kind of in a fucked position. Sort of. Once again, they have more leverage than they've had in the past right now. Not like the most leverage, but yeah, we got some leverage going on. But overall, yeah, there are definitely ways to address this within the system we have.
Society is divided into two classes. One that owns and controls the productive enterprises and seeks profit, and one that does not own this form of property and therefore needs to sell its labor for a wage.
So that's just a basic like overview of proletariat, bourgeois or bourgeoisie. I know it's spelled like bourgeoisie. The bougies, the bougie. All right, there we go. I got it.
In markets, even when they're imperfect, are better at making decisions than democracy is. Socialists disagree.
It is.
We understand that
no, you can't. I'm sorry. You literally cannot disagree with that. Market forces, without market forces, you have no idea how much of a resource you need to produce and where it needs to go. That's the value of market forces. If you don't have that, you are lost. You are in the dark. Yeah, no, overall, people's wants and needs typically track on to what is provided pretty well. It tracks onto the profit motive pretty well. And businesses adjust for that stuff. There are certain issues, like when it comes to inelastic markets, like healthcare, and once again, that's when the government needs to step in and, well, at least offer a fucking alternative, right?
When socialists use words like equality, we're talking about making sure that everyone is afforded the same baseline standard of living. That's it. We're not trying to enforce uniformity across the board. Everyone has the same basic guarantee when it comes to quality of life.
Well, that doesn't seem to be all he's advocating for, right? It seems like he's pretty, against any sort of, wealth inequality at all, which ultimately means he has to be against, the commodity form. But if you abolish the commodity form, you get rid of market forces, which leads you, once again, lost and in the dark. China is a great example of that, by the way. They were communists for a long time. I guess they still kind of are. But they ended up moving over to private entrepreneurship in the 1980s, and they experienced a major, major decline in poverty because of it. Governments trying to dictate the output of resources and where they go, it never seems to work. It just never works. I forget the word for it, government-operated freaking markets. I forget the fucking name for it. But it doesn't seem to work. It seems like we need market forces. There's no way for us to gauge how much something is worth, how much overall we need something. It's just hard to do. Fuck me.
You can go out and improve that. It's not a cap on quality of life. It's just a way of saying you are a human being, and that means you deserve a modicum of dignity and security, no strings attached.
God, you know what? I agree. I hardcore fucking agree with that. Thing is, we can do that within the system we have. Once again, we can provide free education, free healthcare, housing. It sounds like there are issues when it comes to getting rid of the privatization of property ownership and stuff. I'm not entirely sure about that, but we can guarantee a certain level or a certain standard of living within the society we have. And it's almost a guarantee because, once again, capitalism is super fucking good. It's just lifting everybody up. Was it rising tides lift all boats?
We advocate for an economy run democratically and not in the search of profit. This can take many forms, whether that's a cybernetically planned economy, a network of autonomous communes, or some other method. What works in the US may be different from what works in other parts of the world. What we can say for certain is that they would all work better than what we have now.
I'm not sure how we can say that for certain. First off, there aren't many co-ops. You'll see some occasionally, but there aren't that many. Well, and that kind of makes you wonder, right? Well, if it works so well, where are they? I get he's saying it works better for the workers. It works well when it comes to worker rights and whatnot. But we also want those corporations, those businesses to work well when it comes to production and getting your shit out, right? Ultimately, what I'm saying is, if they're not competitive, if they don't work as well as the standard business model, why would we ever go to that? Why would we ever kneecap ourselves like that? But yeah, the simple fact that we barely ever see like co-ops, there's like one co-op for every 100 standard businesses. That tells me that there's something about them that isn't very efficient or effective.
We technically reported to the respective brands, and we didn't have a brand manager there most of the time. When left to our own devices, the camera department had the lowest rate of product returns in the store by far, because we decided amongst ourselves how best to meet the customer's needs.
Sure.
When corporate started pressing us for higher profits and the GM started forcing us to upsell, the return rate skyrocketed, actual profits shrank, and the department got all kinds of negative reviews.
You know what they probably did after that as well? They probably stopped doing whatever the fuck they were doing. Yeah, if they're getting that negative feedback, especially in the form of loss in profit, they are going to change what they're doing. So, or if they don't, a business that does will overtake them. That's just how it works. Also, do you seriously think that like a business owner, a CEO, a manager, like someone that owns the business or is like supposed to run the business shouldn't have a say or should have an equal say to the workers? Dude, if I own a fucking business and my workers expected me to have like only one vote out of like however many people like worked there, no, fuck that shit, dude. It's my business. I'm the one that invested all the time, resources into it. I am the one who decides what happens with it.
I'd like to talk about is democracy at the national level, the ability to have a say in how your country is run. In the United States, we supposedly elect people who enact policies that reflect the will of the people. It's pretty clear that this is not actually the case. Studies have shown that what the average person wants has next to zero influence on policy, while what lobbying groups want does.
I'm calling some massive fucking bullshit on that. I'm sorry, dude. If a representative isn't delivering on promises they made during their campaign, they will not be reelected. It's simple. It's simply just how representative democracy works. Yes, they are influenced by corporations, lobbyists, but taking into account what the people want is also very important. Like, for instance, that's why Biden's trying to not decriminalize, but he's trying to make the punishment for like weed less. I think he's trying to take it from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 or something like that. That would be an example of Biden listening to his base, right? Or a politician listening to his base in the hopes of getting reelected. It happens. It very much does. Don't believe this fucking bullshit.
This is something that socialists noticed over 100 years ago. For example, in his book The State and Revolution, Lenin said,
"Look, dude, I'm just gonna throw it out there. Little cringe to be fucking like quoting Lenin, all right? That probably doesn't help out your case very much."
Doesn't want to send billions of tax dollars to fund genocides or proxy wars. We don't want to subsidize industries that are making the planet less habitable for our children. We want labor protections, a better work-life balance, a healthcare system that won't bankrupt us. I'm not saying that everything will be perfect in a socialist society. I'm saying these things are impossible in a capitalist one.
Really, so ideas like cap and trade, those aren't like solutions within capitalism? I just don't get it. How does worker democracy, how does socialism solve all of these problems? I don't think that just automatically follows.
Solutions not only need to be filtered by what will either be most profitable or at best hurt profits the least, but also the actual solutions we do adopt are made by industries unaccountable to the public.
Okay, it doesn't seem like this guy understands how, like, fucking businesses and government work together at all, so I'll explain really quick. The government, that's ran by the people, can regulate these businesses. The government can crack down on them. So and since we vote for the representatives that run the government, we, in effect, do have a say in how these corporations are ran.
Body of citizens really has the power to step to the fossil fuel industry. Under socialism, under a democratic economy, a climate change level decision may still be incredibly hard to make, but most people care more about still having a planet to live on than making the line go up every year.
Are you sure about that, dude? I mean, half the country doesn't even seem to either give a shit or even believe in climate change. So I don't see how worker democracy would change that. Could you help me out?
Us is giving up on the outdated idea that there is always a profit-driven solution to our problems. There isn't.
Well, no fucking die. Wait, who are you talking about? Who's saying that there is always a profit-driven solution to these problems? Once again, the whole reason behind like the government when it comes to industries, business, is to step in when that profit motive fails us. That's the entire point. That's the entire fucking theory. That's the plan right there.
Problems. There isn't. And we can do better. Socialism is the way forward for humanity. It is moral. It is just. At this point, it's common sense.
It's proven to fail, leads to tyranny, and an overall decrease in the standard of living for everyone involved. Socialism is not the way forward. And you didn't really give any like clear arguments as to how socialism will solve these major issues. You just said, oh, worker democracy, it'll fix everything, essentially. Anyway, this has been Cleary fucking with your perspective by putting you in awkward positions because I want to fuck around. And love you guys. Bye-bye.